Go up here. I'm not gonna give you a belly rub, we're working. Okay, I'm gonna put this away then. And you're just gonna sit right there. Ow. We're back. The headless YouTuber and her trusty pug, Pudge. It is a very sunny day today. Honestly, I can't see my viewfinder. I have no idea what I'm looking at, but it is one of, I think this is gonna be one of the last super sunny days we're gonna have. I can just feel fall coming, and I have never had this YouTube channel in a Canadian like fall and winter. So I'm a little bit nervous about the lighting. I'm not gonna have those like nice bright shots anymore, which kind of sucks, but you know, we do what we gotta do. I have now posted 3 2-hour-long videos back to back to back, and I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do it again. I am not gonna do it again. My only goal in life this week is to make a video under an hour. That's my legitimate goal. One video under an hour, I can do it. So the plan this week is to do something that doesn't require too much work, I guess. So I was looking around doing some plant care, and there were some plants where I'm just like, I literally have not given you any attention, yet you just continue to love me and be good to me, and you never make a fuss. So I thought I'd kind of compile a few plants that I have that I would consider to be my easiest to care for plants. And I think this game plan should, in theory, give me a pretty short video, since I'll just be sitting my butt here the entire time and just talking a little bit about the plants. So yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. I do get asked pretty often, like, what were the easiest plants that I either imported or acclimated down to room humidity, or just what are the easiest plants that I have for beginners or whatever. Why does this always roll down? Look how cute my nails are. It's gonna be a bitch to take these sparkles off, but how freaking cute. I love it so much. So I guess let's just get into today's video. And now my puppy is sleeping. Are you sleeping or are you faking? All right, I will go grab the plants. I don't know if the camera audio picked that up, but my husband just farted so loud. I literally told my husband to lock himself in the bedroom and not make a sound, and then he lets out like an earth rattling fart, and now he's just laughing. Because I opened the door and he was like, "Did you hear that?" Yes, buddy, I think the entire neighborhood heard it. I know, babe. You like this one? Is it a good one? My first plant that I have here, have I even shown this on this channel before? This is my Philodendron Vikings. I cannot believe how big this thing is now. It started as a, I think it was either a 4-inch or a 6-inch pot back in 2020, like early 2020, and it has just taken off. It did get thrips a couple times. Thrips loves this plant, but it's bounced back so well every single time I've rehabbed it. And some of the leaves did get a little bit bleached and damaged during my very, very harsh treatment, because I have always been determined to not allow thrips to take this plant completely. And haven't seen thrips since the last treatment, which was several months ago, so that's good news. I consider this to be one of my easier plants because no matter what substrate it's in, no matter how much I neglect it, no matter how much I like move it to different substrates or treat it with chemicals for pests, it always bounces back. Why is my neighborhood so loud today? It's a holiday here today, so everybody is home, everybody is outside making loud noise. I'm such a Karen, but honestly, I'm trying to work. What is that sound? I can't tell if that's something rolling by or someone is like banging on a drum. Okay, here's a new game plan. I'm gonna close the window and turn on the AC. Ugh. Okay, I was actually wrong. It's a bunch of speedboats on the river right in front of my apartment doing donuts on the river. away. Go away. Anyway, this is Big Mama Micans. I actually got this pot for my sister, and it's just been such a great plant for me. And I've moved it around my apartment so many times, have given it totally different sort of environmental conditions, and it just keeps pumping out leaves. So I've posted this multiple times on my Instagram before, and people are always like, what's your secret? And like, what do you do to keep it like so lush and full? So honestly, I have chopped this plant back so many times. And when I chop it back, I mean, I chop it back like right here. Like I really go to town, and I propagate what I can and I put it back in the pot. The plant will push out growth at some axillary bud, and it just ends up growing in fuller. So like this was definitely not as full when I first got it, but just continually chopping back and activating all of those auxiliary buds has just created this really nice, lush and full plant. I do have it in Leca and Pon right now. I transplanted this not too long ago, which is why there's not a bunch of algae built up, and I also have it sort of in a darker corner in my apartment. So yeah, it's been pretty good. Oh, there's also a little bit of perlite in here. And the plant is getting indirect light from a large east-facing window, but it's about 10 to 12 feet away from the window. So it's actually not getting a ton of light, to be honest. And I find that micans do super well in lower light, and it gives you these really dark leaves. I did put this at one point in a sunnier spot, and a lot of the leaves kind of turn this very red color. It's hard to tell on camera. It looks really dark now, but there are definitely some leaves that are super light, and those were grown in highlight. But make sure that it's still getting enough light so that it can photosynthesize and you won't get things like root rot. A lot of people think that root rot is primarily determined by your watering, and to be honest, that's not true. If you're giving your plant enough light and warmth, you can honestly water like every day, but I don't live in a climate where I'm able to do that. If you live somewhere tropical, like think about how much it rains in the rainforest, you know what I mean? Like all those plants are just getting constant rain, but it's living in an environment where the plant knows how to use that water and it can survive in that kind of condition. So just making sure that like the ratio of water and sunlight is like pretty balanced. You don't really deal with a ton of things like root rot. Like honestly, most of my plants that have root rot or have gotten root rot is because I didn't water enough and then I just drenched it when I realized that it was super dry. So yeah, it's actually the opposite problem for me, but otherwise, this guy is just, it's definitely one of my favorites. It has sentimental meaning because I got it from my sister, and I actually have another massive pot of micans. It's probably like a huge 10-inch pot at my sister's house that I need to bring home. So I'm hoping that I can maybe add to this or do like a totally separate pot, because this is a plant that I can just have growing everywhere in the house. And just, I would love to have this growing as a weed everywhere, but I haven't chopped it recently just because I kind of do want it to get longer. I haven't really gone several months without chopping it. I'm like always trimming it back, but you can see where I trimmed down at the bottom. You can see where I cut it right there. And now it's pushing out this new growth here. So yeah, also chopping it back has encouraged more growth to come from the base. And once all of these little short guys grow out, like this will be even fuller. So I'm very happy that, you know, my micans is kind of back where it started, because I really thought I was gonna lose it at one point, only because of thrips, but otherwise this thing has just been such a champ and I am obsessed with it. If you guys don't own Repsalis yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. I am so sweaty. All right. Oh my gosh, stay. I wish I looked cool with my sleeves rolled down, but when they're rolled down, I literally look like a troll. I'm actually gonna show you 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plants, and they're all different types of Repsalis. I cannot stress to you how much I love Repsalis plants. Not only do I find them super easy to care for, but they grow like weeds. Here's where I'm a little bit confused. I see both of these sold and shown on Instagram as Repsalis bassifera. So I've been calling this a bassifera, but I've also been seeing this called a bassifera, and they're very, very different. So, I don't know, what is it? Okay, so this is the first one, I guess. Repsalis bassifera, I don't know. It's a baby one, and typically mature versions of these will trail, and I'm just waiting for mine to trail because I couldn't find or afford or was willing to splurge on a big trailing one. So I'm gonna be patient. I'm gonna grow this one out myself, but these ones are like really plump and fat and juicy, and the growth pattern of them is they kind of just shoot out wherever. And this one is just in a mixture of leca and soil. This one is kept in my Millsbow cabinet with my Hoyas and my cacti. It's literally directly under a 24-watt light bar, and hasn't shown any signs that it's getting too much light. I think you can kind of see some like sun stressing here on the new leaves, but it's still growing really nicely. We have a lot of new growth, and yeah, I love this one so much. So then let's go to the other one, which is this Repsalis bassifera. I really don't know now what this is called. This one's a little bit thirsty, but I've had this one since it was maybe like up to here. So it has grown quite a bit, and it's gotten way more bushy. It's pushed out so much new growth over the last few months that I've had it. I actually just got this at Lowe's, and it was such a sweet find because it was already in a hanging basket. I've never been able to find this plant in like a large size. They always come in like a little 4-inch pot. So I knew I had to have this. It was a great deal, and I was a little bit scared to own it at first because of like how fragile it looks. Like these little strappy leaf thingies they're just so fine, they're so thin. But I've been pretty surprised at how easy it's been and how sort of drought tolerant it's been. I do have this in a really, really chunky mix, but I think it's actually too chunky. Like I wish that I had it in a denser soil. I just don't want to move it because it's growing so well. But this one requires a lot more watering. It gets really thirsty. They're usually a little bit more plump than this. I've moved this around the apartment several times, and it's never thrown a fit under either high light or low light. It's kind of just continued living. So if you're looking for a nice trailing plant, this one I definitely recommend. I've shared so much of this plant with friends, and it still looks super, super full. And it is growing by the day. I think probably by next year, I swear this thing is gonna be like as long as my shelf or as tall as my shelf. I keep having to like move it up a shelf, like one shelf up, because it's getting so long. This used to be on the second to lowest shelf, but it reached the bottom of my shelf, so now it's on the third. And I mean, if we keep going this direction, this thing is gonna be human-sized. I like cannot even express how much I love this plant. This is a Repsalis salicornioides. I don't even know how to say it. So I got this as a really big plant, which I will show you. I have it behind me. But I put this thing through so much stress because, again, the plant was massive and I didn't really want one that big, and some of my friends wanted some, so I was ripping those roots. I cut roots. It was so root bound, and I managed to get like 5 or 6 different plants out of it, plus my big one. This is one of them that I propagated from it, and it showed no signs of stress at all after the separation of the roots and repotting and moving to a different environment, because this was actually grown outside for a little bit, and then the original owner brought it back in during the summer. But yeah, it's just been living on my shelf here. I have it again in no drainage, with no drainage holes. There's some leca at the bottom with regular aeroid soil. All of this bright green is brand new growth. And it's just such a fun plant. It grows wherever it wants to go, and it's just like one of those nice plants to have like on a shelf on its own, or just as like a filler plant on a shelf. If you want something that you don't really have to think about too much, this is a good one. So I find that this one does like, it can tolerate high light and low light. So yeah, no complaints about this one. And let me show you the mama plant. This is Big Mama. So imagine I separated out like pretty large sections to give to my friends, and it's still this big, and it's been just growing so steadily. So much new growth down at the ends, a lot of new growth down at the base, and it's just such a fun plant. Like, again, it grows wherever it wants to grow, it trails really nicely, and these are just so cute. Like, look at the shape of it. How could you not love that? When I see these at the stores, at least here in Canada, they're like small little 4-inch pots, maybe a 6-inch if you can get lucky. This one was grown from someone over a long period of time, so I inherited it really large, and I just felt like I got so lucky because this was one of my favorite Repsalis before, and I have one that I bought from a nursery, and it's still in its little 4-inch pot. Hasn't grown too much, but this one has just taken off. And I did put this in some aeroid soil, and it's in this like long pot with some drainage at the bottom. I'm keeping this actually in my kitchen, and it's behind, or it's like against a wall, so it actually doesn't ever get any direct light. It gets a few hours of indirect light, but it's growing really well. And I've also had this on a south-facing window and didn't mind it at all either. The original owner told me to not put it in too bright of light because they don't like that, but honestly, I had it on my windowsill for so long, and I've had cacti burn on that windowsill, and this one just did not care at all. So this is one that I'm like constantly moving around the apartment as it grows, but this is definitely a forever plant, and I love it so much. So this is a Repsalis Paradoxa, and I received these ones as cuttings. I did separate a bit out for a friend, so it used to be fuller, but I have some new growth on it. Finally, this thing was asleep for so long. This is all brand new down at the bottom, and haven't had any new growth down at the base, but I'm just glad that it's growing, to be honest. I think that I might want to cut this one long piece, maybe like at this knuckle right here, and put it back in the pot so it's a little bit fuller, because it's a little straggly right now. But I do have this one in my bedroom. It's growing in a very algae-ridden pon and leca mix. Doesn't get a ton of light. I do have a south-facing window in my bedroom, but for the most part, we keep that window closed just because the neighbors can see into the bedroom, and then also the sun is just so blinding in the morning, so the windows are actually usually closed, and it's still doing really well. This actually pushed out when I moved it into the bedroom because I used to have this plant on the shelf and it just wasn't doing anything. I'm pleasantly surprised at how easy this has been. I will say that it's not the easiest to root. I think I've mentioned it before that if you don't let these callus up super well, they will rot. My trick for this one has been to let it callus for at least 3 hours while it's dipped in a mixture of rooting powder, sulfur dust, and a teeny tiny bit of cinnamon, and just letting it sit out, and then either rooting it in perlite or leca. This one was really thirsty when I had it in soil for a very little time, so I decided to move it to passive hydro, and honestly I think that was like the best thing I could have done for it, because ever since then it hasn't shriveled up. It's been super happy and firm, even when this does dry out a bit like it has right now. Repsalis Paradoxa, amazing plant. And I have another one here. I just got this one. This is a Repsalis Paradoxa Miner. And they call it a miner because the sides of them are much smaller and the little straps are like skinnier as well. I actually didn't even know this existed. I always thought when I saw this on Instagram and stuff, I did actually think it was just regular Repsalis Paradoxa that just had like a smaller growing pattern, but it is its own plant, and just looking at this makes me so happy. And it's been doing great since I brought it home. There's so much new growth. If you look down at the bottom, all those little skinny guys, those are brand new as well. This one is just in soil. I actually didn't even put leca down at the bottom because I don't have any more leca, but this one's living on my shelf. There is a grow light directly above it, so it is getting pretty bright direct light, and still doing really well. And I really have had no complaints about this since I brought it home. I was fully expecting it to throw a fit, especially because I separated this from a larger plant, split it with 2 of my other friends. There was a bit of stress on the roots because it was like purely in, I think it was like cocoa husk, and it was really rooted in there. But I can actually see some brand new roots in this soil, so I actually think it's doing fine. And I added a good amount of mycorrhizae in here because I wanted to get that root system more robust, and I think we're getting there. If you have been looking for a new Repsalis to add to your collection, one of these, you won't regret it, I promise. I'm going to attempt to film this video on 1 battery charge, so let's keep hauling ass. I just need to figure out what plant this is. I always forget the name, but this is one perk of having an Instagram where you're documenting your plants, because you can just refer back to it if you can find it. I can't believe I have 734 posts now. Holy smokes. Next plant up is this Syningia Leukochrica. I squished a Repsalis on my toe. Gross. As I was saying, the next one is a Syningia Leukochrica, and I was so nervous to buy this. I paid 90 Canadian for it, and I was like, well, there goes $90. I'll get my Instagram picture, I'll enjoy it for a week or 2, and then it will drift into the afterlife. It's going strong, and it's actually pushing out some new growth down at the bottom. I've heard that this plant completely like dies back either in the fall or the winter, and then it comes back, which kind of makes me sad, but going strong so far. I did remove all the flowers that died. I really cannot explain how much I love the texture of this leaf. It's incredible. There is absolutely nothing like it. Think about, have you ever pet a dog's ear? Like if you've actually pet a dog's ear that has floppy ears, it's so soft. Like, oh, sorry, I scared him. This plant and Pudgy's ears, identical, but it's just as soft and fuzzy as it looks. The leaves are super soft. It's got this sheen. It's the most beautiful color, and I can't describe how much I love this plant, and I wish I knew how to propagate it. I've read up a little bit, but I'm not confident that I can do it, and I've heard that trying to do like leaf propagation or whatever is actually not very successful. If anyone has propagated this plant before, or if it really is even worth trying to propagate, please let me know, because I do want to bring one to my mom. I was going to just give it to her, but I can't let go of it. I'm sorry, Mom. I love this plant so much. It literally boosts serotonin in my brain, and it cures my depression. I'm actually really pleasantly surprised at how easy this one has been. It's also living in my IKEA cabinet. Honestly, the humidity isn't very high in there. I want to say it's probably 45 to 50%, probably more in the 40 to 45. It's not weather sealed or anything. There's huge gaps and stuff, but again, all I have in there are Repsalis, cacti, Hoyas, so I didn't feel like I needed to like really make it a greenhouse. But this one is pretty much directly under the grow light, and the grow light is 24 watts, and it's growing like a champ. Sorry, the Pudge snoring begins. The next one is this Fishbone Cactus, and there's really not much to say about it. It does kind of have a wild growth pattern, as you can see. I do think that as these get bigger, they'll fall and sort of trail and not have sort of like bed head, but otherwise, this one is also just in soil with leca down at the bottom. I fertilize this one weekly, a very, very diluted amount of either Marfil or liquid gold leaf. And this has probably doubled, if not tripled in size since I got it. And it just is not stopping. So I have this one in my bedroom. It often gets direct south-facing light, and I think it likes it. It doesn't require high humidity or anything. It's a perfect house plant to just stick wherever. But yeah, this one is super duper easy. Okay, this one is my Big Mama Orchid Cactus. I don't remember the last time I would have actually shown it up close and personal like this, but she's a big girl, and I've propagated this thing so many times. But this plant makes me laugh for real because the growth pattern is just so wonky. Like, look at this thing. It has the longest little antenna and no sign of any leaves. But I've heard that that happens when it's looking for light, but literally it's in my grow room or my plant room directly under a grow light, so I'm not really sure what it wants. But I actually really like it. The reason that I put this in my plant room was because it has such a wild growth pattern, it fills in that empty corner really well. And I kind of like that it's just kind of doing whatever it wants. I love these strappy leaves. I will say though that I think that these are supposed to be grown on like a trellis because it gets really heavy and the little stems tend to break. So I have had to chop off a lot of it because it snapped and I have no support on it, but that's just because I love the way it looks as is. But I don't know, I think I eventually want it to get on a better sort of support system so that I can have more growth on it without it snapping. But if you've never felt an orchid cactus leaf before, they feel amazing. I know that these tend to get written off because they kind of have the, I guess, the rep of being like, I don't know, I don't want to offend anyone, but like, you know, like your grandma has this plant and stuff and whatever, but I love them. Honestly, they're beautiful. I think they add so much character to like a plant shelf or as a standalone plant. I've never had any flowers on this, and before I thought that I wouldn't want any flowers and I would kind of just chop them off. But now that I've kind of grown a closer relationship to this thing, I would love to see a flower come out of it, and if I managed to get one, I feel like I'd be very proud of myself. Yeah, this was an impulse buy on Facebook Marketplace. I bought it as a much bigger plant, but I separated it out, mostly because it was infested with thrips when I got it, and I didn't know that it had thrips. And I drove so far to get it and literally waited outside her apartment in the cold for like an hour because she forgot that I was coming. That's how bad I wanted it. So I was like, I'm not gonna complain, whatever. Like, I know how to treat for thrips, and I'm really happy that I was able to save it because this one has just been growing so beautifully. So if anyone local to me ever wants to get a tiny little prop of this and try it out, let me know. I'd be happy to cut my plant for you. This thing is growing like wild. Oof. I thought that I would bring in one Hoya at least for this video. And the one I want to show you is my Hoya serpens. I've mentioned before that this is probably my all-time favorite Hoya ever. I love everything about these leaves, and they're so fuzzy and adorable. And it's just grown so well. Honestly, I think that this started as a one stem cutting. I think I got this from my friend Nessa. Nessa, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that this was my original cutting here, and then I chopped it and I planted this one, and then it pushed this one out of the base spontaneously, and this one just started to come out. So it's just been growing so well. There's been so much new growth on it. It's not on a trellis or anything. I am keeping it in my my Rudstick cabinet. Have I been calling it a Millsbow cabinet this whole video? That's so annoying. It's a Rudstick cabinet, it's not a Millsbow cabinet. But also in pond, super algae ridden. I am gonna do a maintenance of all of my no drainage hole pots that have bad algae in it, and I'll film it all and show you how I clean it and whatever. But yeah, that is a video for another day. But despite it being somewhat neglected and not flushed out, it's growing really well. I am fertilizing this with liquid gold leaf weekly, but a very, oh my gosh, Pudge, a very, very diluted amount of liquid gold leaf. And honestly, I feel like because I have so many plants and I'm sort of watering pretty sporadically, it hasn't made sense for me for a long time to be on a fertilization schedule because I don't remember who got fertilized. I don't remember any of that. I'm not good at like keeping a notebook or anything. And I had asked my friend Jing if she would 3D print me some kind of like thing I could stick into a plant that's like color coded by month so that I know who's been fertilized. I had this whole system in my head. And then finally I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start fertilizing every single time I water, but I'm gonna dilute it a lot. So basically, instead of getting like the normal feeding that it gets in one fertilization, it's just getting that over a longer period of time. And honestly, all my plants have been growing super, super well, if not better than when I was on that fertilization schedule. I just can't keep track of it. And even if someone told me like an effective way to track it or whatever, I probably wouldn't be consistent with monitoring it or making sure I kept on that schedule. It's just so much easier for me to just add a little bit of fertilizer every time I fill up my pump or like my sprayer or whatever, and just freaking water them. So that's what I'm doing now, if anyone cares about my fertilization schedule. But anyway, yeah, this one has been getting regular feeding every single week. I fill this pot at least once a week, if not twice a week, because pond dries out so freaking fast. And I'm going to need my friend Alice to come over probably twice while I'm in California for vacation to basically just fill all my pond plants. Sorry, Alice. And I do plan on doing a video on how I'm gonna prep all my plants for being gone. It is gonna help that I'll have Alice and my friend Nick to help me, but otherwise I kind of did want to show you my sort of method for preparing to be away from plants for a long period of time. So anywho, now I'm just rambling. Second to last one is a plant I don't think I've ever shown on this channel. So this one is actually a prop from a plant that I had originally, and then me and my friend Erin did a trade, and then she was nice enough to just snip me off a little piece and propagate it for me. And hello, why is it so beautiful? So these were the original 2 leaves she gave me, which were actually beautiful and super variegated, and then it gave me these 2 beauties that are so perfectly variegated, and then it just pushed out this one, which has a ton of white. I've had this in the past as well, like back in 2019, 2020, and it was one of those plants I really never had to think of. It just has the most wild growth pattern. It just grows from wherever it wants to grow. There is no like one growth point. It just shoots out from wherever, and you can get a nice big bushy plant in no time. But that one fully reverted on me, like fully. It was totally green, so I sold it. So now this is like my second chance at getting a variegated one. Pudge Babe. It's one of those times again where I can't think. I'm sorry. I know it's not your fault. Yeah, it's done well in soil, it's done well in passive hydro, it's done well in moss. It just has the will to live no matter what conditions. I will say that these plants tend to revert, or they'll throw like a couple green leaves and then go back to variegated. But again, my older plant, I gave it probably like 6 months to give me variegation, but it was just fully a green burly marks. And yeah, I would say that's the only, I guess, hard part about owning this plant, is just kind of trying to keep up that variegation. But so far this one is off to a great start, and I'm so happy that Erin gave me the chance again to own one, because I didn't realize how much I missed it until I owned this one, but it's just a beautiful plant and very, very photogenic. Oh my gosh, we are at the end of the video. There's one more plant that I want to show you, and it's actually right behind me. It's that huge Euphorbia Trigona, so let me take you over there. This is my huge, massive Euphorbia Trigona. This one was another marketplace purchase back in 2000, when did I get this? 2018, 2019? I think I got this in 2019. This one has just been so great to me, and I've had such a sentimental attachment to it because the woman who grew this from, she said, a 4-inch pot back in like the 80s. It started that small and it's lived through all of her kids being born. And now she's in a care home and she can't obviously take this with her. So I adopted it and it's just been so lovely to have. And I don't know, I just imagine her watching this thing grow into a massive tree, and I just want to do her justice. So it's been easy, honestly. Like if you look at it, that's a south facing window, an east facing window, and this light right now is pretty accurate. It gets pretty dark in here during the afternoons. There's no grow light or anything next to it, and it has just been such a champ no matter where I put it. At our old apartment, I had this actually in a hallway with like essentially no light, and it was still pushing out so much growth, and it's just been so good to me. And I've actually taken so many props of this plant. Down at the bottom you can see where I've cut a lot of it because it was really wide and the front was kind of like jutting forward, but now it's got this really nice manageable shape that I can put it somewhere like this without turning this corner and getting stabbed in the arm. So yeah, Euphorbia Trigona, I love this plant so much. I almost sold it, and luckily my friends talked me out of it. And it was mostly because I felt like I didn't have the perfect space for it. Like I used to have it over there and it just looked kind of weird, and then I had it in my bedroom and it was still kind of weird, but now I feel like it's found its place here, and I was worried about the light situation, but so far, so good. Yeah, if you can get your hands on one of these, this is just a really, really fun succulent to have. And yeah, it's not a cactus. This is a succulent. It's a euphorbia, so it looks like a cactus, but it's not. I'm actually kind of shook that I'm done. I feel like I cheated, but again, my goal is to have a video under an hour. 30 minutes would be ideal, but I think I did it. So anyway, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this hopefully short video. I just wanted to show you guys plants that bring me a lot of happiness, but don't necessarily ever stress me out, really. They've been really, really fun to have, and maybe if you guys have been wanting to add some of these to your wish list but weren't sure on the care or if it was worth getting, I hope this maybe helped you make your decision. But otherwise, I think we're done and we're gonna get out of here. Right, Pudge? Okay, my child, it's time to say goodbye. Would you like to say thank you guys for watching this week's video? And we hope you enjoyed it. And let us know if you like videos like this so that we can do another one. Before we go, can you tell everyone that you love and appreciate them so, so much? And we will see you next week. Do you want to give them a high five before we go? Okay, high five. I think I just got dissed. High five. High five. Low five. High five. Low five. Anything? Anything at all. Is there anything you'd like to offer them? Okay, well, you leave me no choice but to boop you. Are you ready to be booped? Okay, on the count of 3, I'm gonna boop your nose and then we're gonna go. Say bye to your friends. Okay, 1, 2, 3, boop. Bye.